awesome to have you on the call. What number is this, Debbie? I believe this is either 6, 7.
Number 6.
Number 6. I can't believe we started doing 6 at the beginning of the year, and it's super exciting. For those that are tech oriented, I do want to apologize. There appears to be a big gray box over Debbie's picture on this slide. We did not do that on purpose, but we do apologize if you're distracted during the webinar, but we will correct it on our next one. All right, perfect. So today we're going to talk about turning assessments into millions and mastering assessments. And this is a natural flow and follow up to what we had been doing before, which is walking through the different steps of referral-based marketing that Debbie's been sharing with you folks. And what we've gone from who do we talk to, how often do we talk to them, how do we follow up with them, how do we convert into leads, and now we're taking these leads and how do we take those phone calls and turning them to assessment prior to turning them into a client. That's the magic of the situation. I'm super excited about talking about that today. Before we get started, Debbie, let's talk about our next event. The next one is going to be on Wednesday, October 3rd at 12 p.m. Eastern and 11 a.m. Central, leveraging long-term care insurance for home care. We're going to understand and talk about understanding the benefits of long-term care insurance to your clients and your business, how to interpret long-term care insurance policies and educate your clients and family, and how to position yourself as the long-term care insurance expert to drive referrals. And Debbie, I know we didn't talking about this, but I love this subject. I just came from several conferences, and the discussion about how to add additional payers,
Right.
It's a huge one for agencies today, right?
It sure is. I mean, when you consider that, when you really look at the numbers, 20% of folks can really afford to pay for our type of care privately. And so we don't want to narrow our piece of the pie. We want to provide access to as many payer sources as possible. And for those people that have long-term care insurance, it is a huge benefit to them and to your business. And these are long-term cases. Lots of hours, they stay with you a long time. So it is a great revenue source to tap into, and we're going to really uncover some of the strategies to help you do that and to really elevate yourself and differentiate yourself in the marketplace.
So glad you said that. And one of the things that Care Time has been very good at is it's servicing people who use long-term care insurance. We provide certain billing and invoicing capabilities that allow those visits to be added to the invoice when you send it to the long-term care insurance companies, which is what they need. So really exciting stuff. All right, so let's move on. The learning objectives for today. Well, very simple. The mantra of an assessor, key principles to follow during an assessment. In other words, what do we do and how do we do it? Do we have a pathway? Do we have a track? You know, there's a beginning, a middle, and an end, and having that conversation. What's the mindset of your potential clients and their families, and how to appeal to their needs and wants, right? This is emotion. Debbie, you'd probably know this more than anybody else in the industry. It's all about understanding and empathizing with what they're thinking and feeling at the time, and then strategies to improve client retention.
Exactly.
So talking about this kind of conversion. Last time we talked, we spoke about effective strategies to convert, your inquiry calls into assessments, and efficiently managing those calls and digital leads that come into office is critical for your success. And you and I both know whoever's answering the phone and managing the leads and scheduling the assessment, that's the face of your business. That's who they are talking to out of the gate. And so it's really important to close that deal and initiate the care and provide great outcomes. What's a good conversion rate, Debbie, for assessments to clients that people should be striving for?
Well, this part of the journey is so important. And, getting into the home is one piece of it. But then once you get in the home, you get one shot at it. You need to walk away with what I call walk away with the check. So it's really important. So we talked about in last week's or last month's session, we talked about converting those referrals to the assessments. And what my recommendation is, you want those community-based referrals to be greater than 60%. So more than 60% of those calls get converted to an assessment. And then those assessments, 80% of them should be converting to a client.
Okay.
All right. And then when we looked at the leads, maybe they're digital leads or referral providers giving you those leads. They tend to be a lot less, but you want to be striving for greater than a 30% conversion to assessment. And then once you get in the home, at least a 70% conversion. So we've always talked about the value of those community referrals, right, Julio? They're definitely more valuable because it is typically it's a trusted professional handing out your information, advocating for you, recommending you. So those are more heavily weighted, and you should be able to convert them a lot better. That's why I've got that conversion rate higher there. So these are things that you definitely want to be striving for.
Yeah, and so when you talk about turning assessments into millions, actually, you know what? Let's take a look at the next slide. I might have some survey questions, right?
Yeah,
So survey
perfect.
question number 1, have you had a client who generated $1 million in revenue for your business? Yes or no? Let's see who we have some sources here. Folks, we would normally see the result, Debbie, I think on this pop-up, but it looks like the pop-up is not operating there. Let's move on to the next slide. If you folks will answer that survey question, and we'll take a look at the results.
There we go.
And then the second one is, what is your assessment for current conversion rate? Greater than 80%, less than 80%, or you don't know? This is your current assessment to client, right? You talk to the client on the client or the client's family on the phone, and then they either turn into a client or they don't.
Yeah, this is really looking at how, once you get in the house, what's your conversion rate? How many times are you walking out with the deal? Greater than 80%, less than 80, or you don't know? I'm really curious to see what this is. And hopefully today we're going to help you get that number that we are striving for, which is at least 80%.
And Debbie,
Oh, there we go. We got some numbers. Oh, we just missed it.
we
Missed the
just
pop-up.
missed it. That's okay. I think today's, it's gone perfectly so far, Debbie, all year. I figured we had to have each one where we had a glitch and
Exactly.
see how it
Got that
goes.
one.
So this is really interesting to me. You talk about some 80% in my world. That's a high conversion rate,
Yeah.
right? And I think anyone would be happy with that. But what I find most interesting, this is the second time you've talked about turning assessments into millions. Has that ever happened to you where you've had $1 million client?
It's happened several times, and I'm going to share some of those experiences. Now, of course, I've been in business long enough. So where you start to generate higher revenue is it's all about retention, keeping that client. So when you're generating that kind of revenue from one client, that's over several years. And I can't even imagine the hundreds of assessments that I've done, maybe even in the thousands over the years. There was a time when we were so busy when I was out in the field growing my business, doing 3 assessments a day. And I prided myself on having a greater than 90% conversion rate. So I wasn't happy if I didn't get that assessment. But over the years, as you retain those clients, the revenue, and I'll give you an example. We had a client that I did an assessment for many years ago, met with the wife and the husband. He had Lewy body dementia. We provided care for him, 24-hour care for about 8 years, and it was well over $1 million in revenue that we were able to generate. So when you think about what that looks like on a monthly basis, you're looking at $25,000 a month in revenue coming from one of your clients. And you add a couple of these, you've got a really good revenue base, and you just want to continue to keep those clients as long as possible. So I'm going to share some other opportunities or other examples with you as well. But what I really try to do and reinforce with my team is to treat every single referral as $1 million opportunity, because you just don't know what are those cases that are going to turn into those long-term revenue opportunities for you.
That's amazing. And before I let you go into the slides, I'm flabbergasted at 90% conversion rate. That's just amazing. And I hope that today you'll tell us how to do it, because
I'm going to share a lot of tips and tricks with you today. So hopefully we can help everybody get their conversion rate at least at 80%. So let's talk about some of the basics first of all. And some of the key things that I want to reinforce is that it is very important, whoever is answering the phone and taking that referral, that you schedule the assessment as quickly as possible. You want to get in that door before your competition does. They may be calling 2 or 3 people. So you want to be the first to get into that home and start building that relationship. The next thing is get an update from your team on caregiver availability, where that client lives, who do you have available, what are the hours that they're available? Because you could sway a client if there's a lot of potential to help make recommendations around schedule. If you know you've got somebody that's within 5 miles of this case and they're available from 9 to 4, then you recommend a start time at 9 versus starting at 7. And now you've got your scrambling to identify a caregiver that's readily available. So you want to be able to start care as quickly as possible. So going armed with that information is going to help you position that client in a way that's going to make sense for everyone. You want to get the paperwork signed. Even if the client is indecisive about whether they want to move ahead with you, what I often will say is, hey, listen, I'm here now. Let's get the paperwork all signed so that we're ready when you're ready. It's a simple phone call and we've already got everything that we need. And so when a client invests the time that's necessary to actually get all that paperwork done, they don't necessarily want to do that all over again with another competitor. So my goal is always, if somebody else is coming in behind me, my goal is to have them cancel. They're so invested in me and so happy with what I've been able to share with them and the recommendations that I've made, that they cancel my competitor's appointment if they were coming in after me. You want to be willing to take shorter shifts to get started. All right. Now, some people, and I can tell you, we have a competitive advantage over a lot of our clients, our competitors in our community. Many of them have 20-hour-a-week limits. And so if we don't have any of those restrictions, you have more opportunity. Because here's the thing, people have a mentality of, I don't want to overcommit. They're afraid of commitment. So if you allow them to get started, I'll even say, let's do a trial period and see how it goes. I think you're going to love it, but people are more apt to do something that seems or feels more temporary than if it's like they're committing to a great number of hours. So that will really turn a lot of people off. And I'll share another $1 million client. I went in to do an assessment with a couple, and the wife was the primary caregiver. And I'm telling you, she was stressed out. She was physically burdened. Her husband needed a lot of personal care that she was doing. She was older herself. And so I recommended daytime hours, like 12 hours a day, because he was early riser, didn't go to bed till late. He had many falls, he has mobility issues, on and on. I recommended daytime hours. I walked away starting with 2 hours a day.
Wow.
So I get back to the office, I'm reviewing the case with my schedulers, and my main scheduler was really frustrated that this was a 2-hour case. And I said, listen, they need a lot more care. They're just worried about making too much of a commitment. We started with we set up 2 hours for the next day. I got a call that night from the daughter. Dad was in the hospital, and we started 24-hour care the next day for this couple. We provided primary care for the husband. We cared for him for 5 years, 24/7, guys. Okay, this was a 2-hour case. Many people would have refused it because of their hourly limit, minimums. So that's where I'm saying you got to really think about these long-term opportunities. 5 hours we cared for, 5 years we cared for him. He passed away. We cared for her for an additional 3 years. Well over $1 million in revenue on that 2-hour case. So
That's
keep your mind open to these opportunities. Think about yourself as the expert. In many cases, your potential clients and their families need guidance. This is often the first time around with these kinds of care. It's complicated. right? And for them to navigate, be that guide to help them navigate. Be ready to solve their problems when you go into the home for the assessment. So you be that guide. Also, we'll talk about first impressions when you get to that house. Before you get there, I recommend that you confirm the assessment, especially if it wasn't you that took the inquiry call. That helps you to start build rapport. Start to state some of the things that you are looking forward to, meeting you as the daughter, or maybe you and your brother, so that they know a little bit about what you are be walking into, and that's really important. Know what you're walking into, who the care is for, what the diagnoses are. If you can fill out a lot of the paperwork prior to getting to the home, that's going to save you time so that you can be more conversational and building that relationship and the rapport versus just checking off a bunch of boxes as you work through the paperwork. You definitely want to have some professional attire, but I recommend that you don't overdress. Or you don't want to come in a three-piece suit or suit and tie necessarily, because they might feel like you may intimidate them. They might feel like, whoa, this is going to be expensive because you look, even the car you drive, you want to be careful about that. If you're, drive down the street if you've got like a really fancy car. So be thinking about, have your assessment kit, have everything you're going to need from your calculator, your pens, your all the paperwork, any referral forms. If you're going to be making referrals, you want to have everything at your fingertips in your bag so that you don't have to leave the living room, go back to your car, etc. Have a badge with your name clearly indicated, right? So when you come to the door, they recognize that you're the person that's supposed to be there. And again, they might forget your name. It just helps them to build that relationship. All right, so I love this. This is an assessor mantra. All right, and you're probably like, what are you talking about? This is as an assessor, you want to go in with such a level of confidence because they're scared. Okay, this is a big decision for a lot of folks. For the senior, it's somebody coming into their home that they may or may not be comfortable with. For the family, they need some guidance. So you want to go in there thinking of yourself, and these are things you may want to repeat. I teach anybody that I've ever taught about assessments. This is something that I want them to really own. I am a senior care expert. I am an advocate for seniors and their families. All right, sometimes families need a third party to call out the elephant in the room, which is daughter is killing herself to care for mom. And she needs sometimes an advocate to really help mom take that next step. You want to remember you've got the solutions that they need, that you are the best choice for senior care because you're selling them, right? And then finally, you go in there with the mindset that you are getting a commitment today. You are walking away with the check. And that's a big deal. I'm going to circle back on that one in a minute, tell you a funny story about a situation that happened to me regarding that check. Got to walk away with the check, guys. You got to be committed to doing that. All right. So let's talk about the mindset of our clients. And there are really two clients here that you're needing to appeal to. They're in two decision makers. You've got the senior that will be receiving the care, and then you've got their family member. Sometimes it's the primary caregiver, maybe the husband and the secondary caregiver who might be the daughter. So whoever the decision makers are, think about, they have needs, all right? And you want to understand the mindset of both of those decision makers and appeal to both of them. So let's look at the client first of all. And we want to understand that from a senior's perspective, what the driving force for them is feeling like they're in control. All right, these are folks that are going to be coming into their home. They've already maybe have experienced loss. They're losing their strength, maybe their health. They've lost their peers. In a lot of cases, their friendship, a lot of folks have passed away. Maybe their spouse, which is why they're needing some assistance. Their level of respect within our culture has lessened, or our communities, losing their independence. And that's why we're there. And so one of the things that I often the term I use is it's helping you maintain your independence through a system. All right, so we're always wanting to reinforce that they are in control. Empower them in every way you can. Always refer to them when you're asking them questions. Asking them what's important to you, and so that they really they get the sense that you're there to advocate for them and their needs and really hear them out. All right, that's really, really important. All right, so let's look at the caregiver. They're stressed out. They're really coming from typically a position of being so overwhelmed. When you think about the numbers, the average family caregiver will be providing 22 hours of care a week. 25% of caregivers are providing over 40 hours a week of care. That's a lot when you consider that 70% of caregivers are still working a full-time job. So they're stressed out and they need some peace of mind. They need some relief. So that's what we're going to be providing to them and really helping them to achieve that peace of mind. So let's kind of look at the motivators. All right. So this is the motivators for when we look at the senior themselves. Okay. What's important to them? They still want a sense of freedom. They still want a sense of independence. They want to know that the caregiver that you're bringing in is going to be productive and care for them. You know, what they don't want is somebody sitting on their phone all day. It makes them crazy. And so that's something that you want to be thinking about. So when you're developing the care plan, be writing in a lot of those important activities that you want the caregiver to do with the client. Don't leave it up to them. All right. And as I go through the flow chart, when you're doing the assessment, you'll be able to capture what that is. But ensure that your caregiver is staying productive. They want to trust the caregiver. They want to trust you as a company, as a leader, and the caregiver. They want some companionship. And then finally, consistency in the care. Now, the family members want a lot of the same thing. They want to know that you're providing quality care for their loved one. They want peace of mind. They need a break from the responsibility. Okay. And I will often say, you know, if we're doing a good job, what does that look like to you? One daughter will say, well, I want daily updates or weekly updates. To another daughter with a different family, they might say, I don't want any calls. I want to know you've got this. So you'll never know that unless you ask. That's really important. They also want to trust the company. They want to trust the caregiver. And of course, they want consistency. So those are things as you're moving forward, developing the plan, putting the care in place. These are motivators. These are the things that are going to keep a client or cause you to lose a client if you're not fulfilling these things. All right, so let's talk about winning the clients when you're actually the flow of the assessment. When you think about assessments, think about what you're doing sort of as a process. Step one, step two. Obviously, step one, build rapport. Step three, uncover the motivations, concerns, and needs. Step three is presenting the solutions. And then the final thing is signing the client, getting the check. All right. So what does that look like in terms of flow? It's an introduction when you first get there. Give them some background about you, maybe your why you're in this, why you're doing this. If you have a personal experience with a parent or a family member, share that. That's going to help appeal to that emotion, as Julio was saying earlier. It's going to help you build that relationship. And then set the stage for the meeting. So what I would like to do, I'm going to ask you some questions. I've got some paperwork to fill out. I really want to get a better understanding of a day in the life of Mrs. Jones or Mary Jones or whatever it is. And so that's the next step. So I say, walk me through your day. And what are, highlight some of the key challenges that you face throughout the day. And then ask the family. And I always ask permission. May I ask for some feedback from your family member, your daughter, whomever that is there? Because obviously your daughter worries about you. So I'd love her to be able to give me some input as well. And so usually the mother will say, oh, yes, of course, and so on. So we're gathering all of that. And then I like to go into the environmental, or what I call the safety tour. So we want to observe the client and how they function within the environment. I ask them to, do you mind if I see how you ambulate, how how far you're able to walk, like just trying to really understand their mobility especially in relation to what they say are the challenging things that they face on a daily basis. And then say, I'm going to take a tour through the house. So what you want to do is start identifying any risks or any issues and make notes. One of the things that we use, and this is actually going to be provided as a handout, you'll have a chance to indicate if you'd want this. This is a nice little checklist for preventing falls in the home. So you can just be ticking this. And again, remember, as I said, when you're in that, doing that assessment, you want to be that one-stop shop. You want to be able to create recommendations as well as solutions. And so this is a nice, helpful little thing as you're doing your tour. Looks very official. They're going to appreciate it. Gives you a lot of credibility. All right, so back to our flow chart. The next thing we're going to do is now, based on all that information, we're really getting down to what are their ADL needs and start documenting them. And so one of the things I like to ask is, with a little help, what are 2 things that you'd like to accomplish every day? So it might be, I want to get some exercise, or I want to help in the kitchen make my husband's dinner, whatever it might be. What are those 2 things? And then, of course, we're going to be able to, when we're doing the paperwork, understand what the caregiver is going to be needing to assist with. Is it standby assistance? Is it hands-on assistance? All of those things that you're going to be able to incorporate into the care plan. And now comes the time where you make the recommendations. So you're recommending that based on what you see, based on the hours. Now, some family members may want to do, when you're reviewing the ADL needs, I'm going to show you a chart here in just a minute that could help you with helping the family identify all the things that you're going to be thinking about that the caregiver could help with. They might say, well, look, I'm going to help mom with bathing, dressing. Well, when you pull out this form and you say, okay, bathing, there it is on number 1, what days of the week can you do the bathing? And now the daughter goes, oh gosh, oh, I'm really committing to this. And she might go, well, I can do Mondays. Well, then what you've helped the family identify are some key gaps that you're going to be able to fill. So when you go and make those recommendations, you're coming from a very credible point of view, because you've taken into consideration. I mean, dressing assistants, if they're not able to dress, a person's got to get dressed every single day. So now you're making a case for 7-day-a-week care, if the daughter, if there is no help on board, if that makes sense. So this is a great little tool. And again, this will be available as well. So back to that. So you're making the recommendations, you're working through this ADL kind of flow chart, what the week looks like. You may make some recommendations around enhancing safety. And this is where you want to have a lot of referral partners so that you're that one-stop shop. You're showing them you're solving problems. And then the next step is, I always end with, if we're doing a great job, what does that look like to you? And Mrs. Jones is, hers is very different than what the daughter might be. So understand what's important to her. It might be, well, I don't want anybody, when I'm over here reading, I don't want anybody hovering over me. So that'll be an important thing to put into the care plan. So they know, and when I review it and I say, okay, what I've taken away from today is what's important to you is, you don't want a chatty Cathy when you're over here reading a book. You want the caregiver maybe cleaning the kitchen and doing some of the household things when you're doing that. Does that make sense? And then they love that you just heard them. All right. Also, a key piece here is to talk about what the process is, the next steps in the process, so that they understand, and you're talking as though this is happening. All right, you're not asking them, okay, so would you like to start care? No, we say, here's what we do in the process. Sounds like you want to get started. We can probably get started on Monday. This is what it's going to look like. And you're leading them down the garden path, and you're assuming that you're going to be starting the care. Did you have something to say there, Julio?
No, ma'am, I'm fascinated. You're doing an amazing job so far.
Okay, good. How are we doing time-wise?
It is 12:30. We have 30 minutes.
Okay. Actually, I don't know that we have that much time, but anyway, I'm going to keep going. And we record this. So if anybody does have to jump off, we will have this recorded. So I want to talk about a client that you might have that maybe has dementia. All right. And so That's important to understand because there may be a lot of questions when you're doing the assessment that they don't have the answers for, and you don't want them to feel uncomfortable or inadequate. So ask the questions and let them know, set the stage for that. So if they're early dementia, you will, when you come in to do the assessment and you're kind of setting the stage, you'll say, I'm going to be asking a lot of questions. Some of them you may be able to answer, some you may not know the answers to. Do you mind if your daughter fills in some of the answers if you're not sure? So I'm giving them permission to not have all the answers because you're dealing with somebody with memory loss that may not remember their birth date, etc. But when you ask the question, always direct the question to mom. Don't dismiss mom and now direct all your questions to the daughter, because then she will feel disrespected. All right, speak slowly, clearly, give them time to answer, but then allow the daughter to interject. Now, if you're working with somebody that has mid to late stage dementia, what I like to do is get more information virtually, whether you meet them in the driveway and ask a lot of the questions, you might meet them at a coffee shop prior to the visit, over the phone, etc. So that when you actually do the home visit, it's more, they feel like it's more of a social visit, the person that has the dementia. So you'll want to gather what are their likes, their dislikes, what could trigger a negative response, how would we soothe them if there was any behavioral challenges, etc. So a lot of that information you want to gather ahead of time, but you still want to get into the home, understand the environment, etc. All right, so let's talk about some objections. The main objections for a person starting care, these are the key ones. Cost, they're in denial, they don't think they need the care. Trust, lack of confidence in you, and just overall resistance to care. So I'm going to touch on these things. So cost, first of all, you want to, again, explore all the payer options that they may be eligible for. You will, what we do, and I'll show you our referral sheet, we start to gather that at the inquiry call so that I come armed with every payer source that they may have access to, and I'm ready to discuss that. All right. If they were a wartime veteran, I'm going to be talking about aid in attendance. If they were a surviving spouse of a wartime veteran, I'm ready with the paperwork to get them going. They have a Medicare Advantage plan, long-term care insurance, big deal. You want to explore that. And as Julio said, we're going to be discussing that. Don't miss that huge opportunity to grow your business with long-term care insurance. So come understanding and be equipped to tap into all of those payer options. Some tricks of the trade. Ask ahead of time. If mom, if mom doesn't have any dementia issues, then that's important to know. But she may have some cost issues, right? Never in her wildest dream would she think about paying somebody $35, $33 an hour for anything. Back in her day, she probably never even made that much money, right? So ask them if is cost going to be a sensitivity. If it is, don't discuss it. Discuss it with the child that you're doing that. If the daughter, I never, ever, ever say a dollar amount. So if we're talking about 12 hours a day and the daughter says, okay, so 12 hours a day and she's on the spot trying to figure this out, I'll do it on my calculator and I show her. I never say a dollar amount. I just show it to her. Okay, because that can be sticker shock. All right, and then help the families tap into the payer options. You could say, look, the great news is your long-term care insurance is going to cover most of that. And then in addition to that, we may be able to get you tapped into aid in attendance as an example. All right, so what you don't want to do though is be careful when you're talking about payer sources. You don't want to put care on hold while you sort all that out. You want to encourage them, let's get started with the care because mom needs it now. We're going to pay privately. And then as we bring on these other payer sources, that'll kick in. All right, because what you don't want to do is postpone care. Bad things happen when you postpone care. All right, just like that little lady that I was telling you about, like that night he's in the hospital. You don't want to do that. All right, so remember when I said that we're starting to gather all those payer information when we do the referral. Okay, we've got another quick question here. for a survey question, and that is, would you like these handouts emailed to you? You can indicate which ones you would like, and we will get those sent out to you within the next week. And Dylan is standing by. He will be ready to send those to you. So there's the safety checklist, the caregiving action plan, and the intake form. All right. Hopefully we had enough time to get that processed. Alrighty, so when we talk about the objection of denial, they think, oh, I'm fine, I don't need help. What I often will say is, look, I realize that you're used to being independent. This is more about giving your daughter a break. She needs a little bit of peace of mind because she worries about you. So I sometimes will put it on the daughter or the family member because they don't have to feel like they're inadequate. This is more to relieve her worry than it is for us to be there helping you. This is for people that are really, really prideful, and it works very often. The next one is trust. This is on everyone's mind. When you go into a home, this is a major issue, okay? So address it proactively. Highlight what you do. What is your vetting process? Your background checks. You check the registries. Do not, don't overlook how important this is, because say your competition was there, they may have mentioned that. And if you don't, they might think, oh, well, this company does this, and I'll explain that to you. Highlight any accountability measures that you have in place. So for example, when you're using telephony or EDV, if you get an alert within 5 minutes, tell your client, your prospective clients, that you're doing that. One time, I'll never forget this. I did an assessment, called the client back. There was one of these, the competitor was coming in. She said, well, we decided to go with another company. And of course I said, well, can you explain, what was it? Why did you do that? And they said, well, they have this telephone system where the caregiver calls in and they know that the caregiver's there. And I said, oh, we have that also. And she said, well, you didn't tell me that. And so I've never done an assessment without mentioning that. Don't take that for granted, because it's important. And trust is a big one. It's a key motivator, right? Something I also say is, look, at the end of the day, I'm not happy if you're not happy. Reinforce this: you're in control, you're in charge, and if there's something that's not working out, let us know. We'll change it if we need to, but I'm not happy if you're not happy. Confidence in you. Ensure a smooth and seamless process. Solve their problems, meet everybody's needs, all the decision makers' needs. Communicate the next step. So allow your client to visualize what that first day is going to look like and what the follow-up is going to look like, so that they understand your process. Introduce the client to the process that they will be communicating, all those folks that they may be communicating. So introduce them to, hey, this is going to be your schedule. Have her phone number, maybe a picture. This is going to be our director of operations. If you have any issues, if you're having to pass the baton, if it isn't you that will be following up with them, let them know who the follow-up team is, who the team is behind the scenes that's supporting them. And then ultimately live up to your promises. And then finally, resistance to care. They don't really want anybody in their house. And what I will often say is, look, most of my clients said that at the beginning. It can be a little uncomfortable. You've been living 90 years on your own. Feel a little bit awkward, but I can tell you how many people that we've started care where they go, what did I delay? Why did I delay this? This is the best thing that ever happened to me. And they just regret not starting it sooner. So it's a common feeling, but I can assure you so many people are so happy that they did it. But at the end of the day, let's just do a trial. Let's try a couple of days, see how you like it, and we'll go from there. So again, putting them in the power position, they're in control, they're the decision maker. All right. So finally, we've got this process. So when you think about retaining clients, you're doing the referral, you get the assessment, review with your team so they know exactly what this client is needing, develop the care plan, coordinate the care, communicate that start of care. If it's like a week before you're starting, for some reason, I don't recommend that. You want to start as quickly as possible. get that start, and then the follow-up. This is where we can really help with that retention. Follow up on day 1, 7, and 30, and then from there on, monthly engagement. The more communication, the longer you're going to retain that client. And then finally, back to the beginning, it's all about measuring results, right? Reviewing those conversions each week, those KPIs. Review each assessment and determine why it didn't convert. What was the process? Who was the person that did it? How was their approach? They didn't walk away with the check. Are they uncomfortable asking for the check, etc.? And then review each client loss. You lost a client for whatever reason, you want to review why that happened. All right, well, I think that we're running behind here, Julio. That was a little bit longer. Should we just press ahead to our close here?
I think so. I think we had a
Okay.
little bit more, and I would have loved to hear that story. But I think we can go to the survey question. Would you like to schedule a short introductory meeting to learn more about how 52 Weeks Marketing can help you build relationships with community referrers to improve your conversion rates and revenue? Yes, you do. You'd love to do that. Debbie and Dylan are very, very nice people. Take my word for
it. Thank you. We'd love to help you.
They would love to
That's
help
for
you.
sure. All righty,
Okay,
let's
perfect.
go.
And the next one? And then would you like more information about how CareTime can help you track your referrals and conversion and improve your client retention? We would absolutely be honored to have the opportunity to talk to you guys about that. This is a business that we spend a lot of time in, and we do have some really great mechanisms to do that. And you do not have to pay the cost of an external CRM, which is fantastic. So give us a call. Let us know if you'd like us to chat with you.
Awesome.
So
All
on
righty.
that note, our next class is coming up. I'm super excited, leveraging long-term care insurance. This is an important thing. You know, we talked about it earlier in the call. Debbie and I are both big believers in it. It is a rapidly growing business and an aging population. It just takes some knowledge and some skills to know how to talk to the insurance companies, how to get those relationships going, get your contracts, and Debbie will tell you all about it. That is October 23rd at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Please join us for that. And then our contact info, you can reach 52 Weeks Marketing. You can contact Mr. Dylan Schwartz at 629-256-6829. And you can contact CareTime at our website at caretimeus.com. There's a phone number there. There's plenty of contact forms you can fill out. And my very capable and wonderful team will reach out to you.
Yay.
Yay, we did it. We
Well,
got through it. Although I saw one of the notes and comments, somebody said something that looked like the monolith from the movie. Oh my gosh, I better look at that question. Give me just a second. I lost my
Oh,
train.
that's the mantra? Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. I don't know that I see any questions here. I didn't want to put that out there. I don't think the monolith from 2001, that's what he said. Does anyone have any questions? I've got a couple minutes and I will answer them, or we can move on. All right. We're done. Thank you very much, folks. Have a great day. Debbie, as always, it's a real pleasure to work with you.
Thanks, Julio. Bye, everybody.
All right. Bye, guys.